try. Because it was flat. You should have to wear a theme or lapel so I can tell.
I don't think that's gonna happen. Is he at? From Kiss to
No. Snow.
So they have good eats. Shoveling. Don't want to come.
Not me to sit down. No.
How much time do I have?
2 minutes.
Dr. Aiken.
Ms. Williams.
Hi, everybody. Just wanted, let me know when we're ready to begin. Whenever John's ready.
Waiting on Mr. Clare.
Oh, wait, no, okay, gotcha.
Print a new one out. Change or something.
Third place I looked.
Did you go out there earlier?
No, I thought maybe I could get by. But I can't.
Okay, Ms. Williams, I think we're present and accounted for.
Okay, great. I'd like to call this meeting of the Manheim Central School District Board of School Directors to order. It is Monday, February 22nd, 2021. Could you all stand, please, if able to, and say the pledge and a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mr. Howitt, would you please do roll call?
Absolutely. Mr. Clare.
Here.
Dr. Frick.
Here.
Mr. Linder.
Here.
Mr. Yosway.
Here.
Mr. McGeehan. Here. Mr. Need.
Here.
Ritter's not here. Mr. Bushy.
Here.
Mrs. Williams.
Here.
Seat of 9 members present.
Thank you, Mr. Howitt. Okay, I have an announcement. Due to the state issued large gathering limitation and restrictions, tonight's board meeting will be held virtually via Zoom for visitors, with public comments to remain consistent with the board policy 006. Visitor comments that have been received via email will be read during the visitors' comment section of the meeting. Okay, I need a motion for the approval of February 22nd, 2021 school board meeting agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, we get to recognition. Dr. Aiken.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Williams. Yes, once again, we are joined tonight by some special guests and their families, and also their teachers who have spent considerable time getting ready for tonight. So I wanted to take a moment to thank you tonight, and also your prep work for getting ready tonight. So always the best part of the night, and showcasing some of our best and brightest. So without further delay, I'm going to present Interim Elementary Learner of the Month, Ms. Castle.
Dr. Aiken, do you know if the students are coming to our meeting tonight?
They are viewing online.
Oh, perfect. Okay. I just wanted to make sure they were here so they can hear it. Hello, everyone. I am Julie Castle, a first grade teacher at Barron Elementary. I have the honor of presenting Emily Ginder as February Learner of the Month. Emily Ginder is the daughter of Bradley and Carrie Ginder. She has a sister, Ella, and a dog, Max. She enjoys having sleepovers with her cousins, sledding, and playing games. Emily was selected as February Learner of the Month for her work ethic, kind heart, and initiative for learning. Emily is hardworking and persistent. During some of our virtual learning days, Emily was the first to reach out to me with questions she had about her assignments. This bright young girl figured out how to email me so that she could complete her work with its full intent and further grow as a learner. As a first grader, email is a difficult task to figure out and use, yet alone appropriately. This act showed me how motivated Emily is to always do her best. Emily can be shy and quiet at first, but once you establish a relationship of trust with her, she takes off. You soon learn she has a kind and gentle spirit. Emily is quick to help classmates in need or with our daily classroom tasks. She strives to always follow my directions the first time they are given and complete her work to the best of her ability. Emily is an eager learner. She will frequently ask me when she can have her one-on-one conferences to show me how much she has advanced with her skills. This wows me about her. I love her initiative to continue learning. Congratulations again, Emily. I'm so proud of you. Keep up the awesome work. Thank you for listening and celebrating this special learner with me.
From Del Run Elementary, to present our Learner of the Month is Violente.
Hi, everybody. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes.
Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, it says I cannot start screen share while another participant is sharing.
There you go.
All right. All right, can you give me a thumbs up if you can see that?
Yeah.
All right, so I have the honor of presenting Cora Shaw, and she is very deserving of Student of the Month. So Cora is creative. She loves to draw, and she has created so many beautiful illustrations to go along with all of her writing this year. Cora is compassionate. I will often find Cora carefully coaching her peers if they need help. And her nurturing spirit is so wonderful to have in our classroom. Cora is optimistic. When given challenges, Cora always faces them with a bright smile on her face. Cora is responsible and respectful. She leads by example in our classroom, and she's always a first-time listener. And my favorite trait about Cora is her admirable work ethic. She's one of the hardest working kiddos I've ever had the opportunity to work with. And because of this, I know that she will do amazing things in this world. So Cora, you make Barron Nation a much better place to be, and keep up the great work. We're so proud of you.
All right, from Manheim Central Middle School, to present our Learner of the Month, Ms. Bloom.
Second.
Family, and even more importantly, congratulations, Jackson, on being selected to be Learner of the Month. Wow, what a high honor. And I couldn't be more happy and thrilled that you are the recipient of this recognition. You are so deserving of this in more than just one way. Your character shines through every single time that you walk into the orchestra room, and I'm not quite sure you realize how much joy and just fulfillment you bring to my day every time we get to learn and make music together. Even if you're bickering with your lesson peers, it is always such a blast learning with you and getting to know you. Whether that's through Zoom lessons or in-person learning, it really is such a pleasure to have you in orchestra. I'm so thankful that I've gotten to know you so far this year. Every time when you leave the classroom, you may not notice it, but you thank me and tell me to have a great day. And you say it with genuine enthusiasm, and that means a lot. That really is helpful, not just this year, but anytime. So thank you so much for showing your appreciation, but I hope you see how much we appreciate you. So thank you for being such an awesome human being. Great job and congratulations.
Hi, my name is Miss Bloom and I am Jackson's language arts teacher. I chose Jackson for the February Learner of the Month for a number of reasons. First, Jackson is in my Block 1 class, so I see him early in the morning every morning. He always enters with a big smile and makes a point to greet me each day before conversing with his friends. Jackson is a hard worker who always puts forth tremendous effort in everything he does. He shows a particular love for reading and, of course, music. Jackson often makes me laugh when he critiques a new morning song over the announcements. But what many of Jackson's teachers will also echo is what stands out to me. Jackson radiates positivity. If he ever does have a bad day, he doesn't show it. And his cheerfulness and kindness overflow to others around him, friends and classmates alike. I am so fortunate to be able to enjoy Jackson in my class this year. Congratulations, Jackson. We're so proud of you.
Jackson Brubaker, he's a fantastic young man. He is such a hardworking student. He's responsible. But more than that, his positive attitude is just extraordinary. Whenever he's in the room, kids and adults just love to be with him because he's always happy. He's always smiling. And he definitely makes our school a great place to be.
Jackson, congratulations on your selection as Middle School Learner of the Month. You definitely deserve it. I appreciate the leadership that you bring to our classroom every day. I also respect your competitive nature and your enthusiasm that you give to our math class and everything that you contribute. Most of all, thank you for being a friend to many. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Christian Brooks, Jackson's 5th grade Barron time teacher and also a science teacher, and I'm thrilled today to be talking to you about Jackson. The very first time I ever met this young man, he came in this past summer to check out our classroom and see what things were going on in 5th grade, and right away, he and I just bonded with each other. And I think it was over his excitement for 5th grade. I think I bring an excitement to 5th grade for my job, and he was bringing it as a student. And he and I bonded over that right away. He was excited to get started. And a few weeks later, when he came in the very first time, one of the first things that struck me about Jackson was his positive attitude. He is one of the only students who makes sure, goes out of his way every single day to greet me in the morning with a friendly greeting, and he also never misses a chance to say goodbye to me in the afternoon and wish me a good afternoon. And that means a lot to me. I also noticed on Jackson's first days of school that he was a friend to all, a loyal friend to all. He had a lot of friends from the past, and he goes out of his way to keep those relationships going with his friends. He is just loyal to a fault as far as his friendships with other kids. So I see that all the time in interactions with him in the classroom and interactions out at recess. What a great friend he is to have. I also noticed that Jackson doesn't let things bring him down in life. He keeps a positive attitude all the time. He shakes negative things off really quickly and moves on. And that's rare to see with people in general. I would take 1 million Jackson Brubakers every single day, all week in my classroom. He is just that special of a kid, and I'm very proud to be his teacher, and I'm proud to share this honor with him. Good job, Jackson.
Great dancer you are, but I will go ahead and mention that. So awesome job. Hey, if we could just push pause for a second, John, I'm getting some notifications from community members that they're not able to see the live stream. I want to make sure that I understand there's going to be quite a few people log in. I'm on the district homepage. I don't see it either. Jenny says she can see it, but others are saying they can't see it.
I'm seeing it. I believe it's on the district website. I'm 19 people watching live.
Okay, so if we can you put the link right there on the webpage, John? Is that?
I'm going to see if I can edit it here.
You can see it on the Zoom link.
Dr. Aiken, I can see it too. I tapped in and it was visible.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Frick. You get school board meeting live streaming videos. It shows.
It's showing an old video.
It's showing an old video.
Edit the page and put it correctly. It's going to take me 5 minutes.
Let's do this last learner of the month, then John, and we'll circle back. Okay. Finally, our final learner of the month from Manheim Central High School, Ms. McCauley.
Good evening. My name is Ms. McCauley, and I serve as one of the assistant principals here at the high school. I'm excited that on behalf of the high school science department, I am going to recognize both Cody Grissinger and Julia Wolfe as learners of the month for the high school. Cody was a 10th grade student in Mrs. McCurdy's Biology 1 class during the fall semester. He came to class each day with enthusiasm. He was an active participant, always eager to volunteer for demonstrations and to answer questions about life science. He was able to relate to course content to his own experiences. He showed curiosity and open-mindedness, two attitudes demonstrated by good scientists. Cody would voluntarily redo coursework so that he understood the concepts being taught. He was one of the only students to regularly utilize Mrs. McCurdy's office hour on Wednesdays to ask for assistance. Oftentimes, he would just join the office hours to work on Zoom to have Mrs. McCurdy there if he needed help. He has a positive work ethic and attitude. Cody is deserving of this recognition. He was cooperative and respectful and was an encouragement and example to his classmates. Thank you, Cody, for being a Manheim Central High School difference maker and a role model to others. Our second learner of the month is senior Julia Wolfe. Julia is taking upper-level science classes to prepare for the rigor of her college career as a chemical engineering major. Julia does exceptionally well in balancing her responsibilities as a student athlete. Julia always comes prepared to class by having all assignments completed on time. She's there ready to ask good questions about the material she did not understand and is ready to help other learners to gain a better understanding. In Mr. Winkler's AP Physics class, Julia put an effort that is above the class level. And in Mr. Williams' AP Biology class, Julia displayed a strong work ethic, good organizational skills, and a willing attitude to help. Thank you, Julia, for being a difference maker and a role model to our high school student body.
Our teachers and teacher for presenting tonight. So if we could give them one more round of applause. One second to make sure we get a link on the homepage here. Okay, so I guess some people are saying they're going through Facebook, so that's good. Okay, so you refresh your homepage, those of you who are watching at home, it should show up there now. Okay, Ms. Boyes, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Aiken. And I want to say congratulations to all the students of the month and their families and friends. So thank you very much for all the hard work you do. All right, I need a motion for the approval of the January 25th, 2021 school board meeting minutes.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
We had one.
Yep, yeah.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. All right, let's see. I want, next, Mr. Howitt, you will be reading our emails from people who sent them in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Now I'm going to tag
Yours, but
The first comment comes from Nicole Brubaker. Good afternoon. I am writing to you as a frustrated parent. It is my understanding that we chose the option to not use a range when deciding to shut down a school due to COVID reasons. However, Manheim Central chose to use a hard number instead and chose the lowest number possible. For example, instead of shutting down at 4 to 8 cases, we shut down when we get to 4 no matter what. I am respectfully requesting at your next meeting to reconsider this situation. When using a range, there is the ability to assess the situation and see if a closure is necessary. Just because we have reached 4 cases doesn't necessarily mean the school needs to shut down. Every situation is different, and I feel we need a procedure in place that recognizes that. One thing I am struggling with is if the situation is so dire that our kids cannot be in school for 3 days, why is it okay when that decision is made that they may finish out the school day and still spend hours in the school to complete the day? If the school is considered unsafe to be in, wouldn't that start as soon as the decision has been made to shut down? A school closure affects multiple aspects of kids' and parents' lives. I won't go into details. I'm sure that information is obvious. I think mental health needs to seriously be considered along with the physical health when making these decisions. Keep in mind, parents picked the method of schooling they wanted for their children. The vast majority have chosen to send their kids back to school face-to-face full-time. That tells me that while recognizing COVID is here and real, the threat is minimal and parents want their kids in school. Academics are suffering, teachers are frustrated, parents are frustrated. There needs to be consistency. The back and forth between virtual and face-to-face is detrimental. Thank you for all that you do for our school community, and thank you for your consideration in this matter.
Okay, I have the next one, comes from Mr. Matt Grimm. I'm writing this because it's time to start thinking about our kids' futures. We need to stop closing school because someone has COVID, might have COVID. These kids are suffering because they need to go to school. Online school is putting them way behind. Please consider a better alternative to the 3-day close rule. That is way too long. Thanks for your time in this matter, Matt Grimm.
Next comment is from Allison Grimm. And she says, good afternoon. As a working parent who has a child in elementary school and middle school, I'm asking you to reassess the COVID case number by school for closure. My husband and I had the option, like every other parent, to keep our kids out of the school building this school year. We chose to send them for their mental well-being and academic well-being, knowing there was risk. With the state mandating a 3-day closure, there is opportunity for me to miss a whole week of work if both schools hit their current case numbers a day apart. Let alone me missing work, my boys need to be in person learning and not virtual. A friend of mine has a child in the CB school district and they have had minimal closing. They are only closing if they can trace COVID's being spread within the school. If it is only being brought in from outside, they are not closing. I would love to see our district consider this option. Thanks so much, Allison Grimm.
Okay, the next one comes from Mindy Bruckhart. Hello, please change the threshold number so we don't go into the red phase as quickly, as well as decrease the number of days in red phase before they can go back. Our kids need to be in school. Thank you, Mindy Bruckhart.
Next one is from Tim and Carrie Nye. We are writing to share our concern regarding the threshold for closing our schools here in the Manheim Central School District due to COVID-19 cases. We as parents are very concerned about the inconsistent learning that is occurring to the building schools being shut down so frequently. Our children, along with many others, academic, emotional, and social growth. The increased number of suicides by children, along with the large number of anxiety and other mental health disorders affecting children, is staggering and frightening to see and hear about as a parent, due to, in large part, to the schools being closed around the country. There appears to be no good reason to close schools as frequently as Manheim Central does. Please reassess the COVID case number for closure by school and consider changing the threshold. Closing the buildings for a minimum of 3 days regularly is detrimental to our children's well-being and health. So many learners are falling so far behind academically and socially because online learning is not nearly as efficient and productive as consistent daily face-to-face instruction. The increased amount of screen time our children are exposed to and forced to utilize when schools are closed has so many negative and long-term consequences. The best thing for our children is to get them in school on a regular basis where they can learn face-to-face with their teachers, collaborate and actively engage with others, all the while reducing the amount of isolation and anxiety created from being forced to sit at home behind a screen. Ultimately, there appears to be some discrepancy among several school districts within Lancaster County when it comes to closing due to COVID cases. Several appear to not utilize the system for closing their buildings like Manheim Central does. Our current plan is way too taxing on parents and students within the district. Please look into this and consider opening our schools more frequently, as kids must be in school to learn best and be successful. Thank you for your time, Tim and Carrie Nye. Parents to a first grader, fourth grader, and sixth grader in the district.
Okay, next one comes from Melissa Hershey. Hello, I am concerned about the amount of days children need to be in red phase. It takes a toll on the kids and us as parents who go to work full-time jobs. Then that puts a strain on us financially. Please reconsider the amount of days. If masks are supposed to work, why are we even missing days? It is the flu, just a little stronger version, and needed to just run its course.
This one comes from Sandy White. Members of the board, I am writing as one of the many unhappy parents in our district. At the beginning of the year, we were given the choice of having our children attend school in person or online. As a cyber school teacher, I am very much aware that online learning is not a good fit for many children. Since my children are among those, I opted to have them attend school in person. They are both far happier and do far better learning when they are in school. Just one example of why online learning is the worst possible choice. My sophomore daughter had a question about an assignment in English class on a Wednesday. She waited at the teacher's office during her office hours for nearly an hour before finding out from another student that the teacher was off that day and no sub had been provided. She was unable to complete the assignment through no fault of her own. This would not have happened had she been in school. We have removed every possible support from these kids, their friends, their clubs, their coaches, their teachers, and we wonder why their mental health is in shambles. Teen suicide is up to an all-time high. They need to be in school. The other part of this problem is the suddenness and length of the closure. I am very blessed that my children are older and I work from home. If I was a single working parent, I don't know what I would do when I get a phone call on Tuesday that school would be closed until the following Tuesday. It's like the emergency closure of Doe Run over and over again, with parents scrambling to keep their children safe. As much as school is not daycare, it is a major part of many working parents' plan to care for their children. Do we really want 9-year-old Bobby home alone taking care of his 5-year-old Susie? That's what we're going to get if they're not in school where they belong. You were elected to do the will of the people and not cater to the needs of the fearful few. Send out a survey and I'm sure you'll find that most MCSD parents want their children in school. Thank you, Sandy White, mother of grades 10 and 11.
10 and 7.
10 and 7, sorry.
Okay. I had next for Jared and Joe Longenecker, parents of an 8th, 5th, and 3rd grader in the district. We are writing to share a concern regarding the threshold for closing our schools here in the Manheim Central School District. I'm asking that the school board reassess the number of COVID cases needed for closure and change the threshold. I have personally kept myself out of writing any emails this year regarding this issue. I, in fact, refused to even fill out the survey before school started. I am a stay-at-home mom and felt my opinion wasn't fair to state, as I would not be inconvenienced by any closures. I know from many of my working friends how difficult these closures can be. I love my children being home, but I've noticed some changes in my youngest this year. She attends Barron and has spent many days home, some for district closing, some for cleaning days, and also for being quarantined, being in close proximity to others who are considered probable cases. I have enjoyed these days with her home. She loves being home also, so much so that now going to school is hard for her. She often tells me she's scared to go to school and she hopes for school to close. She cries almost daily. She came home last week upset that one of her classmates' parents had COVID and she wasn't sitting close enough to him to also be quarantined. It seems like a very strange thing to be upset about, but just shows how much she wants to be home. School was never an option or a choice before. We have now made it one. Before more issues like this continue, they need to learn from their teachers. They need to be with friends. Our children need to remember school isn't an option they can opt out of. Most importantly, our school board needs to remember who they represent. Our community wants the school to remain open, and our school board should want to represent our wishes. Thank you. Jared and Joe Longenecker, parents of an 8th, 5th, and 3rd grader.
I respectfully request that you continue to honor requests that MC continues to remain open and does not go virtual. It's hard on kids and parents alike, as well as the teachers. We are grateful that there has been fewer interruptions to our schools compared to other districts, but let's keep it that way. Thank you for serving, Kathy Engel.
Next one comes from Andrea Becker. Good morning. A friend shared a post on Facebook about an upcoming vote. She encouraged parents to email to voice their concerns on this. I am emailing for the opposite reason. While not a parent, I am a loving aunt of children in the district and a taxpayer. I am also an essential healthcare worker, having worked on the clinical side before and now in marketing and communications. I agree that the back and forth of in-person and virtual is challenging for all involved and offer my sincerest applause and all parents managing the situation. But I truly believe health must come first. Some of these parents have eschewed the mask mandates as well. In my opinion, based on my daily dealings with the pandemic, from a communication standpoint, if all measures were followed, the measure could be moderate. The more people push back, the tougher measures have to get. If everyone wears masks, gets vaccinated, and follows the protocols in place, this discussion will become moot because the case numbers will not reach the threshold. Rather than push back on decision makers for their plan B, the community needs to be as resolved to following safety measures so all will be safe and able to work and learn. Please note these views are mine and not my employer's, although I do know we stringently back masking, hand washing, and vaccination. I hope you get as many emails like this as those pushing for easy answers to a tough question.
To the ever so patient members of the school board and Dr. Aiken, let me introduce myself. My name is Melissa Alkiski. Thank you for the phonetic spelling. And I have 2 students in Manheim Central School District. I'm writing to you because I know the state regulations allow for school to remain open at a higher threshold than we are currently allowing within our district. I work at a retirement community within Lancaster County, so please believe me when I say that I wouldn't push for this if I thought it would endanger the population with which I am honored to serve. However, I am also privy to the contact tracing which takes place, and it is proven that students are not getting COVID-19 or transmitting it within schools. Students and faculty are wearing masks, they are washing hands and distancing where possible all day. Contact is defined as more than 15 minutes within 6 feet. In reality, 15 minutes is actually a very long period of time to spend within 6 feet. I worked in personal care over the summer in COVID positive rooms and was still not deemed close contact because of the time limit. Our schools provide the safest and most controlled environment where all guidelines are followed. So I do not understand why they are closed at such a small threshold and now for 3 days at a time. On top of the proven lack of transmission in schools, we have the added bonus of learning interruptions for teachers, students, and families. My children have a full support network at home and access to the internet, but it would be a complete fallacy to assume that all children have these things. What about working parents who must still go to work and their children are on laptops and iPads all day with no oversight? Even pediatricians recommend no more than 2 hours a day of screen time. Also, how about single parent homes? Who helps those parents and kids? What about parents already working from home and now also schooling online from home? I don't think I need to go through every scenario because those of us with children are living out these scenarios every day. It is metaphorically like playing upset the fruit basket every week. I question why we follow the state's guidelines for mitigation and not for the threshold closure numbers, which are stricter than the state guidelines. I think and hope that we all have the children's best interests in mind when making these rules, and I cannot see how constant interruption helps or furthers the environment for learning. So I'm asking that the threshold be moved to the state guidelines in order to provide the least amount of interruption as possible. Thank you for listening to my concerns. Melissa.
Okay, next one comes from Kelly Hess, and she is a concerned future parent. Good evening. I'm sure you're getting so many emails from concerned parents like myself. My daughter has not even started school yet, but we will be this year for kindergarten. My daughter will not thrive doing virtual learning. She will need in-school learning. She thrived going to preschool, but as parents, we decided to pull her from preschool to specific preschool requiring masks. My daughter has asthma and yet to wear a mask, and she's exposed to COVID and never got sick. Other concerns, my husband and I both work full-time and are unavailable to be at home to do any sort of virtual learning until the evening hours. We consider full in-school learning without requirement to wear a mask. The numbers are clearly going down in the community and the hospitals. Concerned future parent.
Hello, my name is Danelle Nelson, mother of 4 kids who all attended MC. Madeline has graduated and is attending LVC for teaching. And Austin, who just graduated last year through all this mess and is working full-time and attending ABC apprenticeship trade school. Lacey and Brooke, who are both in the middle school currently. We all love MC. Dr. Aiken is the finishing touch the school district needs along with his COVID-19 planning. He has only ever had the kids in mind when planning and preparing anything of concern to them. And for that, we thank him and know he can't always do as much as he wants because of some of the barriers he comes across. Those barriers, meaning the school board, some teachers and administration that do not always have the students' best interest at heart and are acting out of their own beliefs and fears and not being the representative of all the parents that they should be in this position. I am asking that at this time, the teachers, administration, and especially the board put aside their own personal feelings with anything related to COVID-19 or politics and do what the majority of us parents are asking you to do for our children's sake. And that is get our kids back in school 5 days a week and stop with the days off for contact tracing and stop with the probable cases. Do not shut down for 3 days or any days for cleaning when that can be done overnight. Let our kids go to school. Restrictions. Our board needs to stop going backwards. Let's move forward for our students and their education. At the very minimum, I'm asking that the board would go to the high number and of COVID cases needed per school before shutting down our schools. Right now, they currently took the lowest number per building before closing. I'm asking that we do not shut down for contact tracing to be performed. Students could be in school while you figure all that out. We don't need to shut down a whole building and have kids miss school to do that. I'm asking that the board would only shut our schools down for the minimal days, which is 1 day for cleaning. School purchased high-powered ultrasonic sprayers for the schools, and each school in its entirety should be able to be sprayed down within hours. It's the same thing that gets done each each bus at the end of each day. It did not take long, and one day would be more than enough. Actually, the overnight crew could perform this job, and we could open the very next day and not have any days lost at all for our students. There are so many discrepancies inside our schools and even building to building in how COVID is being handled. If I told you a few stories of my own family's experience in the school, it would make you mind blow. We don't shut down for a case of the chicken pox or flu, so why are we doing it for COVID? Where is the data that supports shutting down our school is stopping the spread? Where is the data that kids are getting COVID from within our own school buildings instead of elsewhere when home doing activities? Where is the data that supports how we do contact tracing in our buildings and what kids we are sending home and literally killing their education and bluntly even them? These kids need their friends, the sports, the school day, club, etc. Suicide rate is higher than any COVID death right now. By keeping our children home and away from school, friends, sports, etc., it's killing them in more ways than you can understand. Kids need to see facial expressions as well to learn and develop. The masks are having a huge impact on our children. So the board needs to step up and do what is right and be the voice they are supposed to be for us parents and students. Us parents are wanting our kids back in school and not quarantining for probable cases. We call upon the board to vote and be the voice for the parents and students, not just a small group but rather the majority of the students and parents. Parents are now keeping their kids home because of the constant back and forth to school and how it is affecting them. This back and forth and now kids going all virtual is detrimental to their education. We need to know if our kids are going in person, that's where they will be and stay. Not the fear that the phone is going to ring and have another we lost the time the teacher is getting about them so they don't get to interact or participate in group activities or get questions answered. This is not meant to bash any teacher. They shouldn't have to do both online, Zoom, and classroom at the same time. This is not what they signed up to do, but it's what needs done right now, and it's our system that's in place. Our system that is being damaged by the board and their politics instead of putting our children and their education first. The system could change if we just quarantined the sick kids and had them on Zoom for that duration. But quarantining 88 students that have been around one student who is probable, not even positive, is absolutely ridiculous. Yes, that was a scenario this year. My one daughter has been quarantined 3 times so far this school year. That is 30 days of missing out on activities, school, friends. If we truly do a true quarantine, etc., with 2 of those times being probable case, she was completely healthy each and every time. So why are we doing this to our students? Why are we quarantining the healthy and destroying their education? The system is messed up and is hurting our children and their education. For the love, please stop doing this to them. Put them back in school for 5 days and stop the unnecessary contact tracing and quarantining. Stop the minimal numbers for COVID students and stop the 3-day shutdown. If I only had time to tell you all the screw ups and the lack of common sense on any of my kids' quarantine, it would make your head spin, and none of it's accurate or consistent. I'm just pleading that everyone can put aside their own political beliefs and let our kids be in school, stay in school, and stop this virtual asynchronous days and quarantining the perfectly healthy children. This includes the board, teachers, principals, etc. My daughter just had a teacher chase her down the hall out of the classroom yelling these masks work to her and finds her in other classes and outside and makes a point to harass her and tell her about social distancing and mask and her point of view on that subject. I'm sure that helped get the idea of these masks working through my daughter's head. Perfectly effective, I'd say. The teachers are here to teach our kids, not to push their political beliefs or agenda on our children. The board is here to make decisions for and be the voice of the majority of the parents and students. I can tell you right now that is not happening on board's end. You realize that many schools around us are not doing the shutdown days and not doing the contact tracing like MC's new policy. Look at Warwick and other surrounding schools. Their kids are in school and not shutting down. I call upon the board to step up, listen to us parents, and put our children back in school 5 days a week with no shutdowns and increasing our numbers to the highest end possible before the cleaning that needs to take place. Thank you.
All right, next one comes from Mindy Bruckhart. Hello, Virginia. My kids came home from track practice yesterday and told me they were forced to wear masks during practice. Wearing a mask during this type of exercise is not healthy. I beg you to reconsider this for the health and safety of our kids. Thank you, Mindy.
Greetings to the Manheim Central School Board. My name is Emily, and I am a parent of 4 students in the district. All of my children attend MC schools. I am a nurse and currently work in the community, and I am an alumni of MC. In recent months and weeks, there have been a few concerns that have been brought up in either circles of parents in our district, community members, and from our very own students. It appears that many people have questions that we don't have clear answers to, and yet no one is asking the questions or is unsure of who to go to directly. The first question that I would like to ask is, what is the framework and the reasoning behind closing our buildings at various times for probable COVID-19 related cases? As I did research on the PA Department of Education website, I did see that there is a recommended guidance on how and when a school building should be closed due to a specific case in relation to the number of students in that particular building. However, it is not a mandate nor a law to close for a probable case. I completely understand that for confirmed positive cases, there is a need to close for contact tracing and cleaning purposes. In speaking with a teacher at a neighboring school district with an average of 4,000 students in that district, they have not needed to close the building in all the school year for probable COVID-19 cases. They indeed did have staff test positive, but their policy is to only close when 6 confirmed cases are in that building. There's research out there to back up that our children are low transmitters of this disease, and that the percentage of cases transmitted in schools is significantly low. Closing our schools so frequently has not only inconvenienced staff and faculty, but has greatly affected our students. When my children become sad, unmotivated, or even depressed at times because they cannot be in the building, but have to be at home in front of the computer, it is not acceptable. That is not an effective way of educating our children. My children's grades have dropped, and even reading levels have gone down because of this inconsistent way of schooling. This last year, as you know, has been difficult for our kids, and just because you have opened the doors doesn't mean that it has gotten any easier for them. I am urging you to reconsider the closure of our buildings for probable cases and the closure of buildings for a low number in positive cases. Please reconsider not closing our school buildings for 3 days at a time. For whatever reason, you voted to close at the lowest possible number within state guidelines. You have also made the decision to quarantine students who are a probable contact, causing extremely high numbers of students to be out of the school building. Some teachers are providing Zoom class to these students and others are not. This type of learning cannot go on. You are responsible as a school board for the safety and well-being of all of our students. Bouncing them back and forth from in-person to online has done nothing but cause chaos, mental, social, and academic detriment to our students. I fully understand that you have provided our district with several learning modules. If we as parents choose to send our kids to the building for in-person learning, then we expect full in-person learning without constant disruptions. Our children deserve a high-quality education, and they most certainly cannot receive this type of education when there is no consistency. It has been said several times over the last few weeks, and again, in recent weeks, that children are not high carriers of this virus. The CDC specifically says on their website that less than 10% of COVID-19 cases in the US have been among children ages 5 to 17. It also states that children are less likely to develop severe illness or die from COVID-19. The other issue that needs addressed is the fact that our children are receiving little to no mask breaks. Why? There is no reason for this. It is my understanding that a teacher can allow a mask break for a student, but that means the student going into the hallway for the break during class time, and that in turn causes the student to miss what's being taught in class. You have children who, again, are significantly low carriers of the virus outside at recess and in gym class with a mask on their face. Doesn't going outside provide the freshest air possible? The amount of calls parents are getting for their students due to headaches and the student needing medication from the nurse is unacceptable. When students are out of school, they don't have headaches, nausea, and dizziness. Mask breaks are essential. We have taken so much from our children in the last year. They can't sit near friends in school. They can't eat with their friends. They can't play with their friends. Then we cover their faces and they can't see smiles from their friends. In high school, they can't even eat without a monitor telling them to pull their mask up between bites of food. Really? Is this what we want for our children? I would hope you as board members, parents, grandparents would not want this for your children and grandchildren. There needs to be changes and we, the parents, are demanding it. If you're unwilling to make changes and work with the parents of our community, then you need to be ready for the possibility of parents pulling their children from the school system. It's out there. Parents are talking. This is the next option. You want to be responsible for that? not putting your personal preference and agenda above before our kids. Fight for our kids, fight for our community. Please reconsider the plan and procedures that you have in place so we can confidently send our children to school knowing that their best interest is of mine. Thank you for your time, Emily.
Okay, next one comes from Jody Zook. Dear Manheim Central School Board, my name is Jody Zook and my husband Matt and I currently have 4 children in the Manheim Central School District. Caleb is a senior, Jordan is a sophomore, Katie's in 8th grade, and Josiah is in 6th. I am also employed full-time at the high school in the food service department. My perspective is not only as a parent, but also as an employee who interacts with staff and students on a daily basis. Our family loves our school district and our children are actively involved with soccer, band, and orchestra activities. We have had a great experience in the last 12 years. However, some issues have come to light in the last few months that we feel need to be addressed. The first issue is the amount of learning interruptions we have had, the contact tracing, and being able to quarantine. We chose to have our children attend in person. 3 of them go 4 days, and 1 of them attends all 5 days. In the last 3.5 months, we have had 8 quarantines from school. 8. That is 16 weeks of 1 or more of my kids not being in a classroom, and I have seen significant repercussions to this in their grades and in their emotional, mental health. The sophomore had Spanish last semester and had been quarantined twice in that period, along with other red phase days. He is typically an A, B student. His final grade in that class was a D+. Can you imagine learning a new language for the first time in this environment? It's setting them up for failure, and he was just glad to pass the class. This is not acceptable to me. I had to tell my 14-year-old daughter, who was already quarantined 3 times since November, that she couldn't go to school on her birthday because the middle school had to close for 3 days due to the new regulations and a lower positive case closure set by you. That was really hard on her. My other middle schooler, had to be quarantined for a second time due to a probable positive case. These words, probable positive, were not around till after Thanksgiving. Why is that? Why do I share some personal stories? Because I want you to see that your decisions affect real people, real kids, real events. There is no reason that we have to be at the lowest positive case number for each building. If your desire is to really keep us in school, then this decision doesn't make any sense. Please consider this. You represent us, and if you would really listen to the heartbeat of your community of parents, you would know this is not what we want. We know the data. We know that less than 10% of COVID-19 cases in the US have been among kids ages 5 to 17, according to CDC. I talked to a family member who has children in the Ephrata School District and asked how many days they have shut down due to contact tracing or other positive cases. Her answer, none. The reason? They don't shut down, for probable positives, and they get their tracing done without having to shut down at all. So why is that? It's something you need to ask yourselves and figure out what's happening in our school district that makes our closing have our kids more than the other districts in our area. The second issue I would like to address is bullying. As long as we have been in the district, bullying has never been tolerated and has been dealt with accordingly. However, in the last several months, this has changed. It's not student to student, it's teacher to student bullying. What do I mean? Kids are harassed on a daily basis for their masks. In the cafeteria, kids have their hands full. We don't use trays anymore, so kids are left juggling styrofoam containers along with anything else they are getting. And if the mask slips below their nose slightly, they don't have the hands to fix it immediately. There are some teachers and administration that will jump all over these kids for this, threatening to take down their names or send them to detention. Teachers actively roam the halls looking for kids whose masks have slipped down slightly. My son and several other kids in his class received an email from his teacher reminding him to have his mask above his nose because, quote, this is important for health as well as your classmates. Why is a teacher contacting my child outside of class regarding masks? If you have a problem, deal with it in the classroom, not in a private school email. My kids dread going to school because they know they will hear all day as teachers either scolding them or giving them a hard time. The focus has changed in our district, and it really saddens me. The kids miss that personal connection they once had. Now they feel like the teachers care about us whether their mask is on or person. I understand following rules, and we instruct our kids to be respectful to authority. But as a parent, it's getting harder to let them know that teachers do in fact care about their education and development, not just the mask mandate. Let me be clear, there are some great teachers and administration in this district who truly care for our kids' education. We know are doing their best to educate this really hard time. However, I have also seen teachers who have an agenda and isn't primarily my child's education. I'm asking you to please educate yourselves on how our kids are being treated by some of their teachers. It's truly becoming a problem that needs to be addressed. I understand this has been a hard and unprecedented school year. None of us ever expected to find ourselves in these times. However, here we are. It's time to begin listening, begin seeing some of the unsettling things happening within our school district, to begin to rekindle our trust and confidence in the education system. Our kids from school, we don't want to pull us from school, but we are coming to that place where our trust is fading, that we as parents are being represented. Please listen, please act. That's what we as parents are asking for. Thank you for your time. Jody Zuck.
To whom it may concern, we would like to voice concern about the school board using the minimum state requirement numbers for our schools to close for cleaning and using the max number of days to close. Quarantining shouldn't be an issue, especially with probable cases, not positive cases. We ask the board members to speak and vote to represent us parents, not for their own agenda, view, beliefs, or fear. We want our kids to go back to school 5 days a week. Please use the state max number of COVID cases before we close our schools and having cleaning done overnight with the night crew and the sprayers that were bought for thousands of dollars instead of closing the school even for 1 day. We want each building to stay with the same stance. This back and forth is detrimental to our kids' education. Thank you for hearing our concerns. We will be watching to see what is decided. Carrie and Matt Zimmerman.
Okay, the next one comes from Justin and Angie Barbush. Greetings, Manheim Central School Board of Directors. The purpose of our email is to ask for Manheim Central to change thresholds for when school buildings go into the red phase. Our personal feelings are kids should be in school 1 week at a time. We understand that districts have an obligation to follow state and CDC guidelines. If that is the case, we are asking Manheim Central to adopt the same thresholds the state has set forth when making decisions to educate the students in Manheim Central as it pertains when the transition in and out of red phase. Recently, we considered having our son Brett be 100% virtual during his wrestling season to limit exposure and possible quarantine due to contact tracing of possible exposure. Mr. White's and his team were very helpful throughout the process. As a side note, it reminds us how grateful we are for the leadership across our district when working through the decision. All staff of MCSD are to be commended and appreciated for their efforts. When it came to making the final decision, we didn't feel it was the best decision for Brett academically to move into remote learning. As important as his athletic career is to him, he said it best when he told me, "Dad, I don't feel I will be able to do as well with some of my harder classes by being remote." As parents, it's made the decision very easy. In-person learning needs to be our #1 priority. Because of this, we're asking for our district to do everything possible to allow in-person classes. Please change our thresholds to mirror the state's thresholds and give us the best opportunity to educate the students of Manheim Central with in-person learning. Thank you for your consideration and your selfless leadership during these times. It does not go unnoticed. Justin and Angie Barbush.
Next letter comes from James Blank, Manheim Central class of 2000. January 29th, 2021, the PA Department of Health and the PA Department of Education made some changes to their policies. They changed the number of days once we went virtual back to the reset from 1 day out of school to the minimum 3 days virtual. As a result of our return to school vote in January by the school board, a few disgruntled members who were basically mad that they didn't gain the majority vote to keep the kids virtual immediately brought forth a vote to stick with the state's recommended low end threshold of COVID people for each school measured by building capacity. At that time, the number was beyond ridiculous, but it's further worse due to the new recommendations. The board needs to vote to change this threshold. The board at this point has handicapped us below the recommended numbers from the state. A reminder to the school board members, we were to represent the opinions and values of the parents and taxpaying citizens. The parents were given a choice what they wanted for their kids at the beginning of the school year, and it is my understanding an overwhelming majority wanted their kids back in school, and some of you chose to take that away as if you know these kids better than their own parents. I'm asking you board members to vote to change the threshold, and I'm reminding the board members now, more than ever, people are watching what's happening and how people are voting. At this point, teachers and administration have the option for a vaccine, and parents have the choice to have their kids in school. Sincerely, Jim.
Okay, next one comes from Claudia Heaston. MC School Board. I am sending this email as a grandparent of school-age children in Elizabethtown, Manheim Central, and Manheim Christian Day Schools. I have grandchildren and have attended MCDS full-time in-person learning since August. Some wear masks, some choose not to. The school has not had to close its door this school year due to any COVID exposures. Donegal, Hempfield, which is one of the largest school district in the county, Warwick, just to name a few, have had in-person learning with very minimal closure, if any. It seems that the school board members certainly aren't taking into consideration the academic, social, and mental toll that is taking place on these children. My grandchildren that are going to the public schools, one being at Manheim Central, tell me they are learning very little this school year. Interruptions during this virtual learning is a big issue. Trying to get questions answered, parents actually swearing during these virtual classes for all to hear. Children have to struggle through this learning process when mom nor dad are able to be there with them. This is not a healthy situation. There is no reason for these students to not be having in-person learning, and stop this nonsense of closing for quote deep cleaning due to a quote couple of suspected cases of COVID. The virus is never going to go away. My belief is everyone is eventually going to get this virus and continue to make these students struggle. Some disgruntled, scared school board members, you need to stop being dictators, and you should be listening to the parents, students. They do have a choice, and it should be heard. Get your students back to in-person learning. Stop making your own guidelines. It's for their best interest. See Houston.
The final comment is from Jordan Blank. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, thank you for taking the time to read this letter. Also, thank you to the administration and staff for everything they have done so far this year. If you are aware, the PA Department of Health recently changed their guidance regarding the closure of schools when COVID cases reach a certain threshold. When the board was debating the reopening of schools, a vote was made in favor of using the lower number of cases provided by the state guided threshold for when schools will close. Prior to the new guidelines, the administration and staff have been doing an excellent job tracing the cases and getting the school back to in-person classes, usually within a day. Now, with the new guidance from the state, it is required that the schools have to have a 3-day closure period when the threshold is met. I'm asking for you to raise the threshold to the higher end of the state guidance for our schools. I feel very strongly about my child remaining in school. I do not understand why our schools are holding the lower number and not expanding it to the higher number. Unfortunately, as a parent and member of the community, I do not feel that our voices are being heard by the school board that is to represent our students. Please take this into consideration. Thank you, Jordan Black.
Mr. Howitt, was that the final one?
That was the final one, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say a thank you to all the parents that took the time to email us. And I want to assure you that we do read each and every one of these emails, that we do listen, we do hear what you are saying. And I hope we can bring some closure to the situation, maybe later on in the meeting. Thank you very much. And Dr. Aiken, Superintendent's report.
Okay, hopefully Cassie and Maddie made it through that. 39 minutes of public comment. Cassie and Maddie, are you still there? All right. I see sleep lines.
Hello, everyone. My name is Maddie Kreider. I'm a current junior here at the high school, and I'm here to talk to everyone about some of the sports that are currently going on, and also about the musical that's currently going on. So first, some results from last week's sports. Girls varsity basketball had a game on February 16th, where they sadly lost 53-54 against Eastern Lebanon Valley. Boys varsity basketball also had a game on February 16th, and they earned a win 61-31, also against Eastern Lebanon Valley. And they also had a game scheduled on February 20th against Daniel Boone Area High School, but sadly that game got canceled. And the final sport event from last week, both boys and girls bowling had an event on February 16th, and they both had a game against Columbia High School. Some events that are going to be happening this week. Girls varsity basketball is going to have a game against Donegal High School on February 27th. Boys varsity basketball will also be going against Donegal High School, but their game will be on February 24th. And boys wrestling has two to be announced dates on February 26th and 27th, but both of these games are listed as away games. So the next thing I would like to talk to you all about is Barron Stage's production of their spring musical. So this year, our spring musical is Mary Poppins, and we just got some information on how this show will be shown to the public. So this year we will be recording our musical again. If any of you saw our fall play Robin Hood, it'll be in that same format. We're hoping to have Mr. Charles and his broadcasting class record it. And the main reason why we are, again, recording our show is because when you factor in the amount of people in the cast and crew and pit and all of our directors, we come very close to the amount allowed in the high school auditorium. So it is mainly for precaution and safety that we record our show. And we also recently got some approved dates for our show, which is very exciting. So our plan moving forward is to record the show from April 5th to the 9th, and the show will be made available to the public from April 17th to May 2nd. And I believe, similar to Robin Hood, the show will be free to anyone, so anyone can watch the show. And that's all I have, and I'm going to turn it over to my other student representative, Cassandra Forey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cassie. Thanks again for having me back tonight. I wanted to start by sharing some student council activities that are going on. So I've already brought Trivia Thursdays to your attention, which we're continuing to have in the high school consistently. This month, we're showing Zootopia and Up for the next few weeks during lunch. So we were going to do that again last week, but then school was canceled due to snow. So we'll try that again this week. And I'm excited to see how kids respond and just having that little break in their day where they can watch something at lunch. I'm excited to see how that goes over. We're also doing a lot of fundraisers for Minithon right now. And one of them that's my personal favorite is a Chick-fil-A fundraiser. So we're selling Chick-fil-A for students to have at lunch on Friday, March 12th. So we're offering chicken nuggets and the classic chicken sandwich and waffle fries for students to purchase and then eat at lunch that day. And then all proceeds will go to Minithon and the Four Diamonds Fund. So I didn't come up with this fundraiser, but I think it's a great idea. So I'm really excited to have Chick-fil-A at lunch one day and to see how the other kids enjoy that and respond to that. And another fundraiser that we're having, which is super exciting, is a water bottle fundraiser. So we're selling personalized Yeti and Hydro Peaks with a selection of MC and Minithon logos and colors. And students can personalize it as well, so they can put their names on it or whatever they want to. And once again, all the proceeds go to Minithon and the Four Diamonds Fund. So I'm excited that we have so much going on for student council right now and that we're still able to do these fundraisers despite COVID and fluctuations in the school schedule. So other clubs are also, though, trying to make the best of this weird year and the fluctuating schedules. And something that came to mind for me is Interact is doing a pen pal program. So some students in Interact have selected to be a pen pal or a video pal to residents at Pleasant View or Mount Hope Nazarene Retirement Home. So the idea is that they send letters regularly or video chat with a resident, especially right now because a lot of them are locked down in their retirement homes. This is a way for them to have some outside communication and be able to talk to somebody. This has been hard to get underway, though, due to COVID and staffing issues at the retirement homes. So I have a pen pal. I'm a part of Interact. And while I've not heard anything yet, I think hopefully I can be in touch soon and am looking forward to see how that impacts her and how we can learn from each other. Interact has also been trying to have a snowman building day and make the best of the snow, although that has not worked out yet. I think they are going to try to reschedule it and do it soon. So that's where they go to Pleasant View and build snowmen in that area so that residents can look outside and see that. I believe that's all I have for now. It's been an interesting start to the new semester, and I'm excited to keep being able to share updates from the school with everyone here. So does anyone have any questions for Maddie or I?
Maddie and Cassie, this is Mrs. Williams. I just want to tell you, you put a smile on my face just listening to the enthusiasm you two have. I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of a Four Diamond family ourselves and all the other Four Diamonds families out there that watched Thon this weekend. Thank you for all your hard work and everything that you guys are doing. It's an inspiration to all of us. Thank you.
Patty. Last name was Haldeman. Do you know who that is?
I only heard my name. Could you repeat the sentence?
For the second.
I'm sorry, I still didn't hear what you said.
Tomorrow, we just want to
See you.
I think there's some microphone issues. We can hear a little bit at the beginning and then it cuts out.
Yeah.
Right? It's being very intermittent. We're hearing a little bit. I think that was Mr. Claire going to speak, but we didn't hear. That's why Maddie isn't responding. I'm sure she didn't hear any more than I did. Dr. Aiken, we don't hear you right now either.
I can go home.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Maddie, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you now, yes.
We just want to say thank you for coming out tonight and for your awesome report, and have a great rest of the week.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.
Budget season now. Ryan has a budget presentation tonight. He's not going to go into too great detail or in depth because he's also going to give another budget update this Thursday for the facilities committee. So, Brian, this point,
I think maybe they turned the mics off a little early. You meant to turn the mic off of me, probably. Budget presentation. That's okay. After how good of a job Nancy and Maddie did, I'm thinking about hiring them to do the budget presentations. Well, I want to walk through just a couple figures. And I'm not going to touch too deeply on some of these slides. Like Dr. Aiken said, I'm doing another presentation Thursday night. And I'll go into a little bit deeper dive on some of these numbers, but wanted to just kind of touch on it. A lot of it's going to be some of the same stuff. I'm just going to go a little bit deeper on Thursday. Maybe not. My control's not working. Okay, so just looking at the 5-year budget projections here, and basically, rather than going into a lot of stuff on the current year budget, 2021-22 is updated kind of as a forecast. A lot of detail is not in that number. I'm working with some principals and directors right now to talk about their individual budgets. There's a lot of budgets like the maintenance budget and the tech budget that are not represented in here. They're just kind of have a percentage increase on them from the actuals from the prior year. So a lot of those numbers will start getting filled in as we get into March and get more detail there. This has been a kind of a tough budget year just because it's always tough when there's some variation that occurs that is outside of a standard normal cyclical kind of budget for you. And when there's a large variation like that, kind of handling how this year is going to end and how next year is going to go is kind of tough forecasting. But this is where we're currently at. You'll see that 2021, the projections changed to a surplus. It had previously been a deficit. I'll go into some reasons why that number turned green when it was red prior to that, when it was budgeted deficit. Looking at local revenue projections. One of the things that stands out is real estate taxes. So if you recall, one of the things we talk about is collection rate on the real estate taxes, and that's the percentage of people that pay their bill currently right up front. PASBO, our school business officials group, and a lot of school districts, including Manheim Central, us, lowered that collection rate. So that collection rate was budgeted at 95.8%. we're clocking at about 96.4% this year so far in collection rate. And that's added, if you look at the budget, there's a 203,000 over budget and a year over year difference of 547,947 right there. Interim real estate taxes are down a little bit. Those are the real estate taxes we collect when a new property comes on the tax rolls. For whatever reason, they're down. It could be the slowdown in construction or some other things, but those numbers are down slightly. Transfer taxes, we're clocking, are going to be up. Transfer tax occurs when a home is sold. So when a home is sold, we get a percentage of the sales price as taxes, transfer taxes. So that's coming in about 180,000 over budget. Delinquent taxes are down. Now with the decrease in collection rate, we thought there would be an increase in delinquent payments. And with the collection rate actually being higher, that delinquency rate is probably going to be under what was budgeted. So that's forecasted to come in 68,000 under. Earned income taxes. This is the one that kind of caught me by surprise because I know some other districts are dealing with this, but with the unemployment and some people losing their jobs, we had forecasted, and mine was actually a conservative decrease compared to what some of the state numbers were saying. We had forecasted that number to be down, but in fact, we are looking closer to the 1920 numbers on the earned income tax, and you can see there that's a $665,000 difference on against what was budgeted. So that's a big number. We're digging into that. Our numbers are great. They're holding up to the 1920 numbers. So I don't have an explanation for why, because you would think that those numbers should be down, but
Some things are best not to ask.
we're not being impacted as much, I guess, in this school district community as maybe some other districts are. Investment earnings, not a great story. We thought it was gonna, you can see in 1920, it was over half a million dollars of investment earnings. We thought it was gonna jump down to a little over 100,000. In fact, we're gonna be fighting to get over 50. And that's gonna impact the numbers moving forward as well. So those are the local revenue projections. Really, the state budget's gonna stay pretty consistent with what we budgeted. It's local revenue that we were really concerned about, and I am happy to report that we're doing pretty well against what we thought might happen. Here's just an example of the real estate tax collections. You can see over from 1819 is the blue, 1920 the orange, and the gray is 2021. And if you're looking in this area in July and August, that is the discount period. So that is the period, if you pay your bill within that time, you get a discount on the payment. And you can see that more so than the last 2 years, more people are paying their tax bill within the discount period. And then over there on the right, you can see there's the discounts have increased. That makes it look like a giant increase. We're really only talking about 20,000, less than $20,000, but it's just kind of intriguing to me. I would have expected those payments to be down, and in fact, they're up in the first two months of the collection period. Now, this is a sample, and I won't spend too much time here, but the governor put out a proposal that was, it was massive. He basically is proposing a $1.3 billion increase to the basic ed funding. And the reason he's doing that is because they want to switch to an equitable funding formula. And if you recall, some of you have been around for a while. If you recall, I've talked about if we switch to an equitable formula, that some school districts are going to realize a hit, like Manheim Central would realize nearly $900,000 of lost revenue if they took the current pot of money and used the formula that they developed. Well, his solution to that is to throw more money at it so that nobody's a loser and that nobody realizes a decrease. And that 1.3 billion cushions that. For Manheim Central, a 7.28% increase. In addition to that, he's proposing $200 million increase for the special education funding, and that would be $178,503. One of the things that I'm kind of very intrigued with, and I kind of hope the conversation continues on this, is the charter school reform piece that he's proposing. And that is to set tuition at a set rate across the state rather than each school district paying a tuition based on their cost per student. The tuition would be set at $9,500 statewide. Our current tuition is $12,255. Based on what we're projecting this year, if that rate were in place, we'd be saving over $200,000 in this current year based on that reform. The other thing that would be significant would be charter school special ed reform. There are categories that are developed, and right now, regardless of what services a learner requires, we pay $26,700 for a learner that's labeled as special education. So suppose they need an hour of speech therapy. We're paying $26,700. There's no way that speech therapy costs the difference between $26,700 and $12,255. So that reform would create levels, and that tuition would be set based on the level of services required by the learner, and that would be positive. I don't really have any way to generate what that savings would be, but it would be a savings for us, probably a significant. In there, the minimum wage, he's proposing to $12 an hour in July 21 to $15 an hour by July 27. I only put that in there because it would impact us as far as support staff and some other positions that we have. He's proposing to pay for all this with a personal income tax rate increase to 4.49%. And then there would be exclusions that would be added for lower income. Now, after I say all that, it has little chance of passing in its current form. It's what you can see there. I had DOA down there at the bottom. It's dead on arrival. This is not going to pass. The reason I pointed out and how massive it is, because I believe it's going to force a conversation it's probably not going to end anywhere near this, but it could be a positive thing moving forward for us, particularly with the charter school reform. So that's the reason I pointed out, so the board's aware of it and understands what the proposal is. But we're being told there's no way it's going to pass in that form. It's massive. The state has some revenue shortfalls. They have their own economic issues, so this would be pie in the sky, but still good for conversation. I wanted to just point out briefly some of the COVID-19 relief funding that we've received since March 2020 and what we've used it for. And I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but we got a little over $250 from Lancaster County Cares. We used that on some online instructor salaries and some of our invoices for the virtual education through the IU. We got the first round of ESSER funds. We got what we got to spend, and we got a little bit more than that. We do have to share some with the non-public schools in the district. So we're using that for learner iPads and eSpark licenses. We got a small amount for special education. That's for supplies and professional services. Through PCCD, we got some school health and safety grants. And we use that for primarily PPE, face shields, social distancing efforts, signage, cleaning equipment, disinfectant sprayers, cleaning supplies, nursing supplies. John was able to get needed monitors, headphones, and microphones and webcams that we needed for distance learning. The second grant, we haven't received that funding, but we have the budget in, and we expect it to be approved here very soon. We're answering a few questions, but that was for some remote learning software. Again, PPE, and more PPE, wipes, hand sanitizer, COVID signage, some Zoom and hotspots, tech equipment for Zoom room, and then custodial equipment. Right now, we've been approved a little over $1.5 million in the ESSER 2 funds. Those are not as restrictive for the spending. And so we are discussing right now how we're going to expend those funds. We have until September 30th, 2023 to spend those funds, and we've been discussing what we're going to use. We have some really good positive uses, some things we were going to have to pay for out of our budget anyway that we're now able to use these funds on. So we're a little excited about that. Without getting anybody too terribly excited, there's an ESSER 3 funds that may be coming out that would be potentially double the ESSER 2 funds. It's really early, but right now that's the part of the stimulus package that they're talking about. I have absolutely zero information on timelines or anything to do with that, but I just wanted to point out that we're using the funds the best we can. We're trying to use it to make our budget lighter and to be able to offset some of the tech and additional expenditures that we're incurring for maintenance and custodial and for the PPE. Wanted to point this one out because it's a jump. Here's the annual cyber charter school costs since 2015-16, and you can see it was fairly stable coming through with a good year in 18-19, then pop back up in 19-20, and you can see here we're clocking at a $1.27 million pace right now, which is 480,000, almost a 480,000 increase over last year. So that's a concerning trend. We're hoping that recovers. We're hoping that if we can get back to some normalcy next year, that we'll get some of those learners back in house and we won't have to pay that. So teasers, for those of you that have been around, you remember that this was not supposed to look like this. The curve was supposed to be more of a bell shape. It was supposed to go up to a point, and then it was supposed to come back down. I don't think it's ever coming back down. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to promise that any year. It seems to be climbing each year. You can see by 0.4, 0.5%. It doesn't look like it's going to slow down, and they're saying it's probably going to push 40% coming up, but it's going to continue on that trajectory and not recover. So, just to point out the expense that is to the district. I mean, that's a net increase in Peaser's costs. The expenses, you can see that in the blue column, that's the increase year over year that we project just from the expenses alone. And then, of course, the state gives us 50% roughly of our Peasers, our employer contributions back. And so the net increase in Peasers before we do anything is, up to $200,000. So that continues to be kind of a thorn in our side. The numbers aren't going to come back down. They're just going to continue to rise. Wanted to point out the debt service payments. We use a wrap debt service method. And basically what that means is you can see the different colors are different projects. So the blue is the middle school. The orange is Doe Run. The gray is Barron Elementary. And the yellow would be the proposed high school renovation. And what we do is once we pay the bulk of one project off, while we're doing that, we pay a small amount of the other projects. Then when one project drops, we pay all the money of principal to the next project when that project drops. And that creates level debt service payments. You can see it's pretty level up there. The biggest jump we need to be concerned about is with the high school project. And we've said this over and over again. There's a $1.15 million jump between 2021, this current year, and what we're going to have to pay in 22-23. We do have reserves that we're going to use to offset that and kind of cushion that moving forward. But wanted to point out that 1.15, once we get there and get our revenues set, then we're kind of coasting on the debt service side at level payments. But it is a big jumping from about $6.3 million to $7.4 million. So I wanted to point that out. Wanted to also point out we successfully have refunded the 2017 and the 2015 bonds. 2017 was a 2.56, 2015 was at 2.5%. We got rates of yields of 1.77% and 1.19% just recently with the last one, and those are taxable bank loans. that we received. So we went a little bit different under that, but you can see the net savings on both of those refundings this fiscal year is $2.9 million, or $260,000 a year. This isn't even including the 2014 general obligation bond that we refunded last year. So 2018 is not eligible for refunding for another roughly another year. So hopefully the rates will still be down to the point where we can refund that. We've also, I mean, we got killer rates on the first bond issue for the high school as well. So we've been doing well out there in the bond market. The rates are supposed to stay down for some time now. So we should be able to get really competitive. I mean, really just historical rates on the high school project. So pretty exciting. Now, of course, I just told you that we lost nearly $500,000 of interest revenue on our cash back deposits. So there's kind of a bit of a trade-off there, but at least we were able to save money on the refunding to try to offset that.
Are we allowed to invest in our own bonds?
I don't believe we can now. I never asked it, but I don't think we can.
I don't believe so. That's going to be insider trading, I believe.
No, it would be insider trading, but it's a negative arbitrage, and it's kind of a losing thing. There'd be risk because we're investing ourselves.
So what's next? Meetings continue with principals and directors. There are some principals I've only talked to briefly, as some directors I've only talked to briefly. I've been working on with Crystal and Mr. Weitzel, because those are the two largest site budgets. So their budgets are nearly complete and in the books, and then I'll move on to elementary school and then some of the directors. We're going to monitor that state budget process. There's a chance that it might not be done before we need to go to budget time. So that's concerning. We're going to work to maximize the use of federal ESSER funds. We're going to make that money work for us the best we can. We have a team that's kind of looking at that and talking about it. And I think we have a plan to really use that money responsibly, which is a positive for us. We're going to continue staffing meetings. We've started those. We've had a few already. We're going to continue those meetings. And then we're working on current year projections. Right now, Kelly Martin and I are. So when we get more information on that, probably in March, April, we're going to have a lot more information about where we're going to finish out the year in 2021. Any questions or discussion?
On the very first slide, you showed the 5-year budget.
Mm-hmm.
The federal amount of revenue is very small, but it varies quite significantly. And I was wondering what was driving that. Is it a grant that we're expecting that's going to elapse, or?
Yeah,
everything else is
here at the
fairly
federal revenue here.
Percentage-wise, that's almost doubling and then halving.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to represent the usage of those funds that I just talked about, of the COVID relief funds. I put some of it in there because we have the 2022, 23 to spend it. We don't really know how that's going to be split up amongst the years at this point. So I kind of just threw some of it in there to try to represent the fact that we are indeed getting some of those funds, but admittedly, I don't have a lot of detail as to what fiscal year.
Over the years, I think of the federal contribution without grants, it was around 700,000, and that's what it seems to.
Correct. Yeah.
This is kind of fluctuating.
Depending on how much we get for the school-based access, it can go up or down 100,000 or so. But yeah, that's trying to represent that COVID money.
Any other questions for Brian? All right, item C under my superintendent's report, case closure. It's really don't want to belabor the point. Just respectfully requesting that our leadership team would have the discretion move in those case closure amounts rather than doing the threshold. But as you heard tonight, and just bringing us back, I thought we could open this up for discussion.
So, Dr. Aiken, if I could ask a question, one thing I felt was unclear back in January. Really, things have changed, right? The state has said now it has to be 3 days, and before, right, we were pushing hard to make it a 1-day turnaround, right? One thing I think was unclear back in January, at least to me, was what's the rationale between when we would act on the bottom end of the range versus the top end of the range. I didn't feel like, at least that I understood, what our rationale would be, as opposed to a mentality of always push to the top end and defer the decision as long as possible. Being that fits a lot of the stated goals of keep the children in school the longest, right? And aligns to that. But is that the safest decision? I never understood sort of our thought process or decision tree to get from a bottom end to a top end. Now, I know we can't just say always go to the top end, because that's against the state guidance. That's more loose than the state guidance. We'd have to at least adopt the guidance or say to the bottom, you can always be more restrictive. You can't be less restrictive, right? So what would be the mentality or the thought process? I'll say bottom versus top end of the range.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Jump in here as well, but I think like I always use Barron Elementary as an example. And I think, with each of these cases, before we had the chart, we would always call Pennsylvania Department of Health. We'd run through the scenarios, and then they would say, hey, our recommendation is you close, you don't need to close. So I think I don't want to give a blanket statement when we deal with it. We would deal with everything on a case-by-case basis. But I use Barron as an example. If you look at a 14-day rolling average, right now our threshold is 2. So if we have one on day 1, and we have one, on day 14, now we're closing for a minimum of 3 days, and those two aren't related at all. So just having, especially like, for instance, like a Barron where you only have 2 and there's no wiggle room, being able to have that 3 to 4, up to 4, that kind of wiggle room would give, or I think, I don't want to use freedom is probably not the right word, but maybe some interpretation or at least discussion with Pennsylvania Department of Health. Say, hey, you hit 2, boom, you're closed. Maybe you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. Some other factors I think we could consider would be, I got asked a question this past week by a parent about how much have we seen schools spread? And it's really a number you can't determine, because there's so many factors. The X factor is enormous. But what I would tell you is when we see some of these numbers coming in, you could use Barron, but I could also use Del Runner, the middle school. There are only 4. Let's say there's been times we've had individuals that have not stepped foot in the building when school is in session make up that count. And so, I'm trying not to give away too much personal identifying information, but, you even have a visitor of some type come in the building, or an employee from another agency that's working in the building. We are including those in our counts to be transparent. Because if you look at what the PDE guidance says, it says if there's been a COVID positive or probable, so those positive and probable is in there, it says that we need to add them, to our count. And we've been doing that to be transparent. So when we're seeing those people that aren't necessarily with kids all the time, that would be a consideration. The last time we had talked about this, I said there could be a time where one family has 3 members in a school building. And so that's 3 people. And yes, they could be in 3 different rooms, but if it's one family incident, does that mean it's spreading throughout? Perhaps not. And that has happened since that point in time where we've had 3 members from one family in one building. So I can only tell you the scenarios that I've seen. It doesn't lend itself to a flow chart. I wish it was clear enough that I could say to you, here's the 4 things we look at. It's just, there's so many factors that what I'm asking is for the latitude to be able to look at it professionally with everything that I've seen from the beginning of the year, use the Department of Health, and we also have Lancaster General, and we also have the rapid response resources to pull together and say, hey, this is what we're seeing, from what I know in my position, but also your professional expertise, where do you see that we're at? And I think that would allow us, on a Thursday or Friday, for example, Barron gets to 2 on a Thursday. They're not related. It allows us to have school on Friday, get cleaning in perhaps over the weekend in the old system without shutting down for 3 days. But you get my point. There's just so many more factors we could consider to keep kids in school. So that would be.
Is it a requirement that we count the probable? There was some concern that that was a choice we were making in some of the letters and that we shouldn't do that. But is that one of the
So
requirements?
here on the PDE site, it says what student staff members are included in the school's 14-day rolling count. The CDC and Prevention, Center for Disease Control and Prevention includes both confirmed and probable cases. Therefore, the case count for a school building would include any individual student or staff with a confirmed or probable case who was physically present in the school setting while infectious.
So you wouldn't be able to disallow that from the count, however.
Not according to
decide
what
that.
I'm seeing now.
Okay. And the 3-day thing, 3-day shutdown, is that
So the
also
reason.
a mandate now?
So the reason the 3-day came up is because we don't have officially a Department of Health. We have a county guidance. There's actually, I think, only 5 counties in the state that have an official Department of Health. But without that, they're saying we don't have enough reliance on the true Department of Health to be able to make that call. Now, I know that there's some things in the works to look at that too, about how Lancaster General, who's been supporting us, can help support that process to maybe get away from that 3-day period if appropriate. But for as it stands right now, yes, that has switched to be a requirement as of January 29th, I think was the date that changed.
Dr. Flaherty, question, I don't know if you have the exact number, I'm sure you probably don't, you'd have to go back, but over this timeline, how many times, or can you approximate how many times based on the method that you're giving now that we've been able to stay open compared to needing to close anyway?
I can't give you that exact number. What I could tell you is that I believe there have been 3 incidents that come to mind where I felt like we had conditions that may lend itself to be spread in a school to some degree. And I would have insisted at that point, my clear recommendation would have been to close. The preponderance of times to me has seemed random and unconnected and not perpetually growing. And the other thing you have to remember that's really tricky about this too is like, I don't know how to explain this well, but like there could be a bunch of kids that get it and we're seeing them on our count, but their feet weren't in school. And I would be saying the opposite. I'd be saying, hey, even though their feet weren't in school, we have so many cases that aren't on the list that maybe we should be considering it anyway, to the other point. But without being able to give you a definite number, 3 times come to mind that I felt strongly that something didn't seem right. It wasn't random in my unprofessional medical opinion, but in my professional pandemic coordinator for this district opinion.
How many symptoms must the student or adult show to determine a probable case?
Yeah, there has to be 2 things present. There has to be a direct connection, usually household contact, usually to a positive case. So that's factor 1. So, you know, my dad has it. I visited my aunt, she had it, something there. And then the other symptoms would be 1 major symptom, loss of taste, loss of smell, oh my goodness, cough and
fever.
It's not fever anymore, actually, maybe fatigue. And then the other symptoms on the other side, stomach ache, diarrhea, fever, it would be 2 from column B.
So are our parents informed of this? And they should just say, we're keeping Johnny home today because if Johnny goes to school, then the school's going to get closed down and infect or
Yeah, I'll tell you, our parents have actually been
2 or 3 classes or whatever. You know, that there's some parental responsibility there. One student staying home can keep hundreds of students in school.
Yes, I agree.
It's not just us saying 2 kids per 14 days. It's also 2 kids or 2 adults showing up with symptoms that should be staying at home.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Staying at home would absolutely help. Reporting to us in a timely fashion are ways parents can help. But the other thing that parents have been doing with probables that's been very helpful is even though they might not be so inclined to test on their own, when they hear that if they can get tested on the 5th day and if they come back negative, it releases everyone from quarantine. A lot of our parents have been willing to say, hey, you know what, I'm not really a fan of testing, or that's not something I would want to do, but I'm willing to do that for the good of the order. So that's been another piece that's really helped us get kids out of quarantine earlier. But to your first point, staying home when you're sick is the biggest key that could help us. Absolutely.
So I think, everyone has seen how things behave, right? And locally, I don't know that I've seen or actually would ever see if there's been deaths of any students. We've seen a couple of cases of administrators/teachers in Lancaster County, right? It's a lot more of the risk, I think, is placed on our employees as opposed to our students. Right. So that's part of the decision we make when we have this, right? It's not just, hey, the students and the in-person learning and all the other things that are going on mentally and what have you, but it's the risk for all of our employees, right? And admittedly, I understand what everyone's talking about. I'm not sure that all of our employees have had their voice heard as loudly as the parents. And right, the ratios just dictate that. It's not surprising, right? But I think the change by the state to force the 3 days slows things down a little bit, and that's very different than January, right? It makes me more comfortable with the range. But I still worry that we didn't hear from any of our employees tonight, right? We heard from a lot of concerned parents, concerned voters. I don't think they're all parents, but we didn't hear from any employees. So, that's just a gap maybe tonight that we didn't hear their voice. But certainly parents, their message, well heard, right? I don't begrudge anybody, but I'm worried we didn't hear the full picture, right? But I do understand things are different now. We could probably move to the ranges with the new state guidelines forcing the 3 day, barring any changes with the quasi Department of Health kind of guidance.
I am definitely in favor of in-person learning. I want it to be done safely for the students, for the community, and for the employees. Can we talk a little bit about things we're doing for the safety of the folks in the school? We know how many classrooms meet the CDC guidelines of keeping students 6 feet apart in the classroom. We have that. I'd like to know, what percentage of the buildings meet that guideline?
That would take some, we'll get that, Mr. Johnson. That would take some time because each class is a little bit different, especially in high school, different courses that the kids take.
But that would suggest, though, that there are some where the kids are less than 6 feet apart.
Correct. Absolutely.
Okay. Do we provide plexiglass for teachers' desks who want it? That Esser's money, I just found out about. Do we do that?
We have some teachers in high school who have plexiglass around their desks, yes.
Have we offered it, though? I mean, it's expensive, and
We've offered it in 2 ways. We've offered it as an accommodation for folks who need an accommodation, ADA wise. And the other thing is there's certain jobs or settings that are a little less conducive. For example, speech therapists, like by the nature of articulation, they're right there. So we have provided them with plexiglass, or psychologists, for example, the nature of their testing. So right now, the way it's been provided uniformly, to your point, is either through ADA accommodation or through job specific necessity.
I mean, I'm looking out and seeing plexiglass on the desks of the folks in the district office, and I think that the risk to the folks in the classrooms is as high or higher. I would like to see that as a safety measure. And I know we're taking this seriously. I want to support having in-person learning, but I want it done safely. And to me, that's an important step. Are we doing anything with the hallways? Are they one way, or can the kids go either way in the hallways of the schools?
We tried, if you remember from the earlier safety plan.
I remember it was, talked
We
about.
tried the one-way directional hallways, and it actually caused more crowding because of the time it took kids to walk. So we moved from that to being able to stagger hallways. Depending, here's an easier way to explain it because of where the grade levels are located, but it's a staggered system rather than a one-directional system. It gives us the maximum amount of space we can.
Okay, and then I'll come back to the ventilation. Have we verified that in our classrooms?
We have, and our ventilation is within what the recommendation is.
It is in all the classrooms?
Yes.
Good.
We would have two cases that are that far apart, beginning and end of the 14 days, and they're in two separate classrooms. Would we be able to just isolate those two classrooms and have those out rather than have the whole school
Yeah,
out?
before we had the hard counts of closing, we were able to do that. If it was a, particular classroom, for instance, in one end of the building and the rest of the building wasn't impacted, we were just closing a classroom down or quarantining who we needed to, but then once it went
In the whole building, because the whole building we could prove wasn't affected.
Correct. Bush, you had your hand up.
I have a question. Like, I know the state was using like the yellow, green, and red before. They've moved to a different system. And from when I don't know the numbers exactly, but I saw if we kept up the same trend as it's been on, in 2 weeks, you almost not have to do any of this stuff. I mean, everything up except masks would go away, really. I might be wrong.
I can speak to that a little bit. So every week I sit on meetings with Lancaster General Hospital, which is Penn Medicine, and superintendents from throughout the county. They're just scheduled meetings. And the Dr. Martin is one of the doctors that speaks to us, and he goes through the statistics. So one thing he told me a couple of weeks ago, I found really, I guess, a powerful image I did not realize. So he was talking about how there was this big spike in cases, obviously after Christmas time. And the rates at the end of January, I think the highest day was about 392 cases in Lancaster County per 100,000, if I remember correctly. And so I knew the rates were there. So that wasn't the shocking fact to me. The shocking fact to me at that point in January was that to get back to the rates we were at near in October, which seems like an eon ago, that was 50 cases. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's how far away from 50 cases we are. But as of yesterday in the county, it was on 2/21, it was 80 cases. So you're correct, the numbers are going down, and they have been for 3 weeks in a row now.
Does that eventually put us in a different?
It will put us out of substantial risk eventually. The second factor you should consider is that I look at a lot is the R number. The easiest way to explain the R number is if I would have COVID, if I'd be COVID positive, how many people do I spread it to? And we want that number to be under 1. I give it to under 1 person. And for the last several months, we've been well over that number. And last week on our call was the first time. Now their data is always a week old, but last week on our call, they were telling us for the first time we've gone back under 1. So that's a good rate. Hospitalizations, if I remember, now I don't have this one written down, but I think I'm pretty accurate. In December, we're over 120 beds, which is over 100% capacity. And we're now down to in the 50s, I think. And then the last one is positivity rate. The positivity rate is currently around 18% in the county, and that's also considerably down. So factors are trending down and have been for some time. We'll see what happens here in the upcoming weeks, but that would be other data for your consideration.
Johnson and Johnson.
Can't hear Mike.
Yeah,
We can't hear Mike. When Mike talks, we can't hear him.
and the mic goes out.
You come sit here, Mike.
Yeah, the mic's out. Linda and I
Yeah.
can't hear.
Yeah, we can't hear when Mr. Claire is talking.
It's right there.
It's like a spaceship.
All right.
Why not? Maybe they're muting you.
Can you hear?
No, you're cutting out. I don't know what the story is. Can't hear you.
Nope, we can't hear you.
If you're talking, we can't hear you. Sorry.
No sound, sorry.
We can't hear Mr. Claire. Dr. Frickin, I can't.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you,
Yeah.
Rob.
We can hear you, Rob. We cannot hear
Nope,
Mr. Claire.
We cannot hear Mike, sorry.
No, sorry.
You can use his cell
Never
phone.
mind. Okay. Would somebody like to just repeat what Mr. Claire would like to say if we can't hear him? Mr. Yosway, will you speak?
He's talking. It's just a mic issue, Linda.
Okay.
Can you go like this if you can hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. I can hear you, Rob.
Go ahead, Mr. Claire. I'll translate. So to speak.
John.
As soon as he talks, sound goes off.
This week
For their vaccine.
for their vaccine.
And the administration
And the administration
is taking their vaccine, which is one shot,
is taking their vaccine, which is one shot,
and providing it to teachers.
and providing it to teachers.
Got it.
Yep, and then UPMC, University of Pittsburgh Medical Center,
University of Pittsburgh Medical Center
came out this afternoon on their website where they are taking, they have openings for anybody that wants the shot.
They have openings for anyone who wants the shot.
Okay. Thank you. I'd just like to say something. I think that we need to stop the restrictions that we're putting on the administration here. And I think it would be to our benefit for our kids to just go by the state guidelines and give our administrators the flexibility to be able to work on a situation basis so that we don't have to close and start again. I do see this as terribly disruptive for everybody involved. I think that we sort of handcuffed our administration with the guidelines that we imposed upon them. And I don't think that's a good idea right now. I think, I believe that we should just follow state guidelines and let our administration determine when we're opening and when we're closing.
I agree,
So,
even though you can't hear me.
yeah, Mike and Linda, with all due respect,
Can you hear you now, Mr. Claire?
in January, I feel it was the right decision, right?
Yeah.
So I respectfully disagree with your point. If the point was it was the wrong decision back then,
No, I'm
still
not saying,
feel that enough
I'm
has
not saying-
changed with
Yeah.
we're far enough away from the holiday spike. Things are looking positive. Let's be as far forward on the wave as we can without falling off the wave, so to speak. I think it's a good time to make the change again now. Now, we'll see, holidays will be coming up again in Easter or whatever, and hopefully it's not what the fall was. Fall, you kind of went back to back to back to back, and we saw what happened, right?
Right.
I
I'm
think
not,
we're in a good position now to be able to say, I guess we should make a motion at this point.
right. I'm not saying it was a bad decision when the decision was made. I'm saying that we made the decision. We see that it is not working right now because of the things that are happening right now. So I think that we need to change our decision.
And Linda, I think I would add, right, we'll never know if it was right or wrong. It was a decision that was made, right? And so it's a spilt milk kind of discussion in some respect that we say, hey,
Absolutely.
the decision we made, it got us to here. And I think things are going the right way. So in that respect, it got to this point, things are looking good. I think it's time to make another tweak to our decision-making process. You know, with that in mind, I'd like to make the motion to adopt the ranges and follow the state guidelines.
I'll second.
You second that for me, Denise?
I already did.
Now there you could hear me.
Yep, we
Right.
can't. We have a motion on the floor and we have a second. Is there any further discussion?
One thing, I mean, I don't think when we did that in Thanksgiving was wrong. I mean, it was running rampant. The numbers were going crazy. I mean, your neighbors were getting COVID and now things have definitely changed.
Right.
It's all going in the right direction.
Yeah, and I would agree with everything that's been said here. And certainly my stance for the importance of safety has not changed, nor has my confidence and the idea of trusting the administration generously as far as their role. You know, certainly what they have done is admirable in, you know, navigating this, and Dr. Flannery's knowledge and information that she shares with us has certainly been helpful in helping us make decisions. So certainly we want to continue that, and while still considering the idea of safety as the situation fluxes, as we've all seen over the past year. So certainly that provides rationale for making a change as well. So.
And I'd also like to say that as this year has proven, we can never say this is what's going to be forever.
Right.
You know, changes that are going to happen, and this is just another one of those changes.
I would like to either hopefully dispel some myths or at least understand them. The size of the school that then determines the count and the range, that number is what? Is it the total attendance on a typical day plus the faculty and employees?
So
Or is it a rated?
it's not completely crystal clear, but I can tell you what we've used.
Yes.
So we use the total enrollment of students that may have their feet in the building. So at elementary, it's clear whose feet are in the building and who aren't. Online learners are not in the building, hybrid and others are. Barron is in the lowest range, under 500. Doe Run is in the second range, which is 500 to 900. Middle school and high school are where it gets nebulous because they might not be in school, but they might be in a sport. Well, their feet might be in the building. So the numbers are a little hairy there. Middle school, we decided to remove their online learners. There aren't enough kids involved in activities at this point to push them over the threshold. So they are at the same range as Doe Run, which is the 500 to 900 range. That means closures for them would be 4 to 6 students. Barron would be 2 to 4 students. The high school is clearly over the number needed, 900 and over. And so they're at the highest range, which would be 6 to 8 students.
Are we consistent if we count the students, whether their feet are in or out, and then they become a positive or a probable positive, that we also count them for that?
Yes.
I was hearing rumors that if they were virtually learning and they were positive, we didn't count them, but they did count towards the building total. So it was kind of inconsistent, if you understand what
Yeah,
I'm
let me
saying.
think that through. Let me just talk it aloud, okay?
You're
So
right there, Mr. Osborne, because for the case closure, it had to be feet in the building. But we would keep a count also of our total positives.
but
So that sounds a little
asking is a little
inconsistent.
different.
Keep it simple. Say there are 100 students in the building and the rate's 2 to 4. All right. but in 50 of those are virtual.
Now, when you say virtual, you mean?
I'm sorry, yeah. They're
If
not
they
in
are
person.
online only, the only way they are counted in either way is if they're involved in a sport.
Oh, I see. So if they're an online learner, but come in for an activity, they do count in
Correct.
both cases. If they're positive or,
Both ways.
I'm looking for consistency.
It's consistent. Yeah, it's consistent. And there has been a lot of questions, you know,
Yes.
leading to this,
And I didn't know
but
the
it is
answers, and
consistent. Sure.
Okay. So okay, that.
So the only people that are not counted at the high school, for example, are kids that are 100% online all of the time
And don't
participate in
Okay.
something that would bring them into school.
And those numbers, to your point, Mr. Young, don't include staff.
Yeah, we don't include staff. But staff are included in the closure count,
Okay.
so it kind of skews us
Thank
that
you-
way.
Thank you for clarifying that. It was referenced in some, go ahead, Ed, I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say, Rob, I appreciate you asking that question because I
got 'em too,
was
yeah.
going to ask the same question because I have heard where the virtual folks are being counted in the numbers, and I just wanted that clarification as well. So I appreciate the question, and thank you, Dr. Flannery, for walking us through that.
Can I mention one other thing that might happen? Just I always feel like when these rumors happen, they come from a place where like a part of it is accurate, you know?
Right.
Like they don't come from nowhere. So another thing you should know, and this is less about the rolling count. Let's say we have a student that's positive and has chosen to stay home the entire time. They were home, maybe they were in quarantine, for example, and they got symptomatic, so they were out maybe for a number of days. Well, they could be, they wouldn't have had their feet in the building during the time while they were contagious. Are you with me? So let's use real numbers to help. Let's say that I get put on quarantine on February 1st, and it's a 14-day quarantine. So I fulfill my 14-day quarantine, but on February, let's just make it the 10th. Oh my goodness, I feel sick. So now I get a test and I'm positive. So I'm out for another 10 days because I'm positive, and I come back to school. I can't do that math in my head tomorrow or whatever it is, right? I will show up on the total count, like not the 14-day rolling count, but on our numbers where we show everybody that's positive. But I won't show up on the rolling count because during the time I was symptomatic and positive, my feet were not in the building. So I could be an in-person student, but I haven't been in school the entire time I've been sick. Therefore, I'm not counted in a total.
I think what you're saying is you look at the date that they're positive and go back, and if they weren't in the school during that time.
Right.
Yes,
But
that's
that could be another way. If people are saying, oh, but they're a virtual learner and they weren't counted. Yeah, they're maybe sometimes in, sometimes out, true, but they weren't in it all during the period they were positive, therefore they wouldn't be on the total, the rolling count.
So I got another question, but I don't want to hog the floor. Okay, so I was looking at our website, the dashboard. I don't remember the exact day, but we had 22 positives or probables throughout the district. More than half were from the middle school. It was way out of proportion to everything else. I have to believe statistically that was different. Something was going on that was different. Have we looked at what we're doing in the middle school, what we're doing at the other schools to see, are the cafeterias similar? Is there something different that we're doing in the middle school that more than 50% of the total district cases come from that building? Typically the buildings had 2 to 4 and the middle school had, I think, 13.
So every time there is an anomaly in our data, we sit down and talk about it as a team. And the team is the principal, the nurse, myself, because we're the ones that are involved in the contact tracing. So what I can tell you interestingly enough about the middle school is before that period in time, since we came back from Christmas, the middle school had almost no cases, to the point where I was like, what's going on? Why are there no cases in the middle school? And then that happened. And so we did what we normally do. We look for connections. And I can tell you in the middle school, interestingly enough, there weren't connections, but it was enough that would be one of the 3 circumstances I described to you earlier that would have made me say, hey, you know what, something's going on there. We need to just, until we figure it out or don't, that would be a time I'd be saying, let's shut this down. But no, before that period of time, the middle school was actually the anomaly in the other direction. So
I can believe that.
that was so I don't think there's something going on there. I don't think there was an incident there. I think those kids happened to get it,
Wave or something.
or teachers or staff or whoever they were, in a wave.
Well, I will support the motion. I would ask that we look at trying to protect the teachers that want it with plexiglass. I think it sounds like we have the funding. And to me, that just makes a lot of sense. We're doing it for a lot of people. We should do it for all that want it.
I would agree with Mr. Yosway. I mean, if the teachers, without the teachers, we don't have anything. We don't have anybody in school, no one's in their classroom. We want to make sure they're comfortable. They are the most at risk. So anyone that we can make more comfortable, I would be for that.
And to Mr. Clare's point, I'm very excited about the vaccinations. It seems like, between the spring, the vaccinations, the various precautions, we're headed in the right direction. I hope it all works out.
Well, Johnson & Johnson is, once they get their approval, they are ready to move. And they, I forget how many million dosages the state or the federal are buying. So hopefully that'll happen very quickly.
And LGH is getting Bon-Ton and saying they're going to do 600 doses an hour.
That would be great.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to follow state guidelines. Any more discussion?
Yeah, I have one comment for some of our letter writers. We don't make decisions here based on politics. We make decisions here based on what's best for our administrators, our staff, and our students. And politics has nothing to do with it. So let's just make that clear.
Thank you.
Anything else? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
And just the last item under my report is the first reading Judicial Policy 1.1, 2023, the first one Dr. Flannery went over last month. This time, this concludes my report, and I will shift it to Dr. Flannery.
Yeah, just a brief update. We had an excellent turnout for our first comprehensive planning meeting. Thank you to Mr. Linder and to Dr. Frick for attending from the school board. Had a student representative, had parent representatives, paraprofessionals, teachers. And what we started to work through were just the group's main components of our comprehensive plan, which is what is our mission, vision, and core values for the next 3 to 5 years. And so we have a good draft of that we're going to take back to the committee. And by our next meeting, I think I'll be able to release to you a preview of our new mission statement, vision, and core values. And it's really centered around the work that you guys have seen us doing for the past several years around becoming mass customized and difference making. So it's really exciting. It was for a virtual meeting, it was one of the more, I don't know, just kind of exciting, happy meetings I think that we've had virtually. So it was a great group. Thank you to the community members who are participating. So that first meeting was on February 16th, and our next meeting is on March 2nd, again, virtually from 3 to 4:30.
Dr. Flannery, I'd just like to say it was very well responded by everybody in the virtual session. I think everybody had a great time, and thank you for all that you guys are doing on the back end to get it ready. So it went very well. Thank you.
You can gear up for data analysis next time.
Will do.
Try to make that fun too, so.
I would just echo those comments as well. I thought the facilitation was outstanding, and it was just a great experience to collaborate with faculty and parents and talk about these important aspects of comprehensive planning and development of mission, vision, values. I think it's a really important endeavor and will provide some direction moving forward. So thanks for the opportunity and looking forward to the next meeting.
Thank you. That concludes my report. I think we're on to personnel, item A.
Yes, we are. With personnel, I'd like you to take a look at A, the retirement of Yvonne Geib. We need a motion. And a second.
So moved.
Second.
I'd like to personally thank Yvonne. Was around almost as long as I was in my teaching career. So thank you very much. And I wish her well in her retirement. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I'd like to put B and C together.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I'd like to put D, E, and F together.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I see Yvonne Geib is on the new substitute list, so be with us, I guess.
We just can't let her go, that's why. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Mr. McGeehan, you're up, treasurer's report.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve item A, financial statements for January 21. Item B, the monthly invoices for January 21. And item C, the high school renovation invoices.
Second. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, we're down to board committee reports. Business ops, Mr. Need.
So we have our next meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock. It is virtual or in person here. I know we had a couple questions about, did we have enough space for people who wanted to come, Brian?
We have to limit that to, is 12, is it 12, Dr. Flannery?
It's 12 in this room, yes.
Yeah, so we do.
So we have 10 that have RSVP'd in person, so.
Put my name on it.
You put me on also, Brian.
But then we've reached our maximum, everybody
Everybody
else
else got to be Zoom.
There's floater room for one more. I talked to Courtney today. In case one person is interested.
Okay, but this Thursday, 6 o'clock, the agenda is out there on the website. So please do come and listen. We'll have the budget, we'll have high school renovation, the student memorial. I forget if that might be it for the, but back agenda.
Yeah, Brian, software.
Software, yeah. Sorry, Brian.
Okay, sounds good. Hope to see a lot of people zooming in that night. All right, academic committee report, Dr. Frick.
Nothing to report at this time, and our next meeting is to be scheduled.
Thank you.
That ends my report.
Okay, activities committee report, Mr. Claire.
All right, we had a meeting on, back in February, and we have a presentation which I sent to everybody for the youth club proposals, the Spike Ball Club, the Debate Club, Diversity and Inclusive Club. We heard it presented by students. They did an outstanding job. There's no cost bearing to the school. And I would like to make a motion that we approve the 3 club proposals.
Second.
Any discussion?
I think it's great that we have these student-generated clubs, and especially kind of tickled by the idea of a debate club. I think that's neat. A little bit of a throwback, but that's great from an educational, academic standpoint.
Yeah, it was great to be at the meeting and hear the students present their clubs and perspectives and respond to questions. So their ownership in the process is really evident.
I wanted to bring that up. In the 10 years that I've been chairman of that committee, this is the first meeting that we had school board members attend. Thank you to Dr. Frick, to Mr. Bushy and Mr. Linder. We had 4 members, and I think we were overwhelmed by the number of high school students that were on with us, either on the committee or just being in to present the individual club programs. Also, I just lost. We'll be having a meeting coming up. Huh?
We have to vote.
We have to,
I'm sorry.
you have to vote yet, Michael.
All right, sorry.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, we also reviewed the athletic health safety plan for spring sports. Dr. Flannery, we will be having more meetings coming up on that. And we also had preliminary discussion of summer extracurricular activities, and we will be having that in the near future. We have a new member, Justin Barbush, who will be joining the class, the activity committee, and I do need to make a motion to accept Justin Barbush as a new member of the activity committee.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
And that ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Claire. Okay, let's move down to general action items. I need a motion for the approval of the Manheim Central School District 2021-2022 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, calendar's fine by me, the way it's laid out. I would like to ask though, that we not have makeup days, weather makeup days. I think that we've proven that we can do virtual learning to a fairly decent degree. I'm not at all suggesting that virtual learning is as good as in person. I fully expect us to be back starting next year to 100% in person. And I believe that when we have inclement weather, having a 2-hour delay and a virtual for the rest of the day, in other words, a 2-hour delay virtual day instead of a snow day, will help with stability of the calendar, both the school and personal calendars. It helps avoid a crunch at the end of the school year, especially if families are planning travel or students are planning to do things, jobs and whatnot. And with the building projects coming up, I don't think we want to start moving that and potentially encroach on the start of construction. Finally, from an academic standpoint, while I'm not going to, in-person learning is better than virtual. In a case like we had this week, we had 2 days off, last week, 2 days off in a row, the continuity of learning starts to get hurt. And I think if you incorporate the 2-hour delay with the virtual, you can keep that going and continue to provide education. A lot of the standardized tests that students in the upper grades take do not change. They're set. And so if you lose those teaching days in any form, they're lost. And then the student's that much less prepared for the test. Finally, we've sunk a lot of money into one-to-one computers and such to support virtual learning. I feel obligated for the community that paid for this to use it. So I guess there are 4 things that compel me to ask us not to do weather makeup days, but rather a 2-hour delayed and virtual when we have inclement weather, be it snow or rain or whatever.
This is another hot topic among the community. I've been
Right.
Out, and a lot of people don't want to have, they don't want to have a school day. There's plenty of time to wake up in the morning, do like a Wednesday program, and then they're done at 10, 11 o'clock, and they have the whole rest of the day to play out in the snow. I would agree with Mr. Yasmin. We're trying to get the high school project done. I think that's what most people want in the community.
So Mr. Yasway, are you want this?
I guess we can do one or two things. If the person that presented the motion would rescind it and the second rescind it, we could resubmit it with those changes, or we could vote this down and then ask for another motion. I'd rather not do that.
Dr. Flannery, while we're in this discussion, you were involved in the calendar. Do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I do have some thoughts, a couple things. I think the first consideration is we've heard from families that the disruptive virtual days tonight have been problematic, that their kids aren't being as successful. So I think when we've tried to make decisions this year, when Dr. Aiken and I have spoken about it, our focus has been to maximize the number of face-to-face days possible. That's been our goal. And I truly believe in that goal. I think maybe it's because I learn better that way, but it's something that I see our kids connecting to better. So I think one thing to think about is we don't know what next year is going to be like and what the state of things is going to be with coronavirus. But I think I'd come back to that philosophy of maximizing the number of days we can see the kids face-to-face has been our priority. So what aligns with that priority? The second thing I would mention is that the reason this year we are allowed to use virtual days on snow days is because of something called I'm not going to remember the name of it. It's like EITT. It was our timesheet we had to submit. I don't know that exemption is going to be there in the future. We'd have to go through a process called FID, Flexible Instructional Day application, which the board could direct us to do and would be fine, but it would be contingent upon that being accepted. Certainly there's enough exemplars out there that have been accepted that wouldn't be an issue. But I would say my consideration would be, how do we prioritize face-to-face learning? And then when we have a larger event, be able to rely on those virtual days as a backup, but face-to-face would be, I think, the first priority for kiddos.
Yeah, if you go back 2 weeks or so ago, I put the memo out to the community. I said, look, this was just for the remainder of this year. But to your point, Mr. Yasser, we have created that capacity to be able to have those virtual days. We have just had such a glut of virtual days this year and really lots of learning. So it's one of those ones where right now, this is just how we want to finish the year. But you're right, we absolutely will revisit this. And hopefully next year we will have a normal school year. And so that when you have a snow day or a virtual day, it's kind of an anomaly and not kind of the norm of what we've got.
Yeah,
I guess
2020, I'm just putting it behind about it.
That's good.
So not to object to you, but I'm going to just add a point to what you're saying, if that's okay. So my fear isn't in what you're saying. It's that we don't know what next year is going to look like. And if we go through a calendar, like let's just say, let's say that extremes would be possible, that it will be exactly like it was 3 years ago, or that it will be exactly like it was this year. Well, if it's exactly like it was 3 years ago, we have no problem, right? We can use the FID days, et cetera, et cetera. But what if it's exactly like this year? If we don't have any snow days built into the calendar, could we be in a situation where we don't have options? So I don't know how this board feels about that, but my fear would be passing a calendar that has no snow day options. And then we're in a place where we've had as many virtual days as we have this year and we don't have
I
another.
think you have 5 at the end of the year.
I think we have 7 total days.
Yeah,
built
2
in.
built in, but then 5 at the end.
Yes, correct.
I'd ask that we get rid of the ones at the end.
Well, I guess, Mr. Osborne, if we could just keep this as is and like, so we're meeting again tomorrow afternoon for this. We have had weekly meetings about this. We are highly cognizant of the high school project. We do not want that delayed at all. And so I guess what I would like is again, that flexibility of the leadership team to have that discretion to say, hey, maybe the high school just goes virtual for the last couple of days, but we're going to do everybody else in person. I'm just giving, for example, Because we know and there's a lot of moving parts with this high school project, and we don't want to hold that up. But to put out a blanket statement and say, hey, we're not going to do any of this for the end of the year, that really handcuffs us. So
Okay, I don't want to handcuff you. I would like to ask that you do the FIDO, whatever it's called.
yeah,
Yeah, and
Can I maybe make a recommendation? Maybe we just meet in the middle and say, at this point in time, we have the 7 days that are built in. And if we happen to have more than 7 snow days next year, at that point in time, we'll go virtual past those 7 days. And that sort of compromise down the line, and we can figure out everything else going into next year and what that brings.
I'm good with just leaving this year the way it is and reassessing next year. I mean, my main concern is wasting days for the high school project.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I think along what she was saying, I'd rather just approve it as is, but kick the agenda to be just revisited, or sorry, the calendar to be revisited July or August when we understand the high school timeline. You know, really that's important. You know, I'm a fan of flexible instruction days. Admittedly, sometimes too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing, right? And I think that's what
That's what I'm trying to say.
right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd be interested to know how we, I'll say performed, because we had one instance where we went snow day, then a virtual day, right? And we had parents wondering, what were you trying to say? And you were predicting the future a little bit, trying to give a heads up, and we confused a lot of people, I think. But did we have good attendance that day? Did it work? Have a virtual snow day, if you will? Or was it just an absolute train wreck and we should never try it again, sort of thing?
We had a principal meeting about it, and I would say the day was a struggle.
Okay.
But it's the first time we try something, so
Yeah.
I don't know how much of it is that as well.
I'm guessing it was better than last March, though, when school was canceled involuntarily.
I don't know. I would have to look at the numbers. I have no idea.
That was
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. We had that meeting, I mean, it was really kind of overwhelming from our leadership team. They kind of check out during the time when we, unless we have to, we can get them in person. Let's get it. The remainder of this year. We've created that capacity. I'd like to see us revisit that and see where we can learn and grow from it.
Okay, we have the motion to approve the 2020, 2021, 2022 calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, to B, the approval of the Manheim Central School District 2022, 2023 school calendar. I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for the approval of engineering services required for the Mobile Lease Modular Space Incorporated to secure permits and provide design services required to place 10 modular classrooms on site at the high school during the renovation project.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
I just want to ask, I know there was a question about that. Can you explain what was happening? It sounds like we're getting them as a hedge or paying some money up front. I don't quite get the issue.
My question was, can we see it? Itemized billing of what they're going to use the money for. So
Well, Mr. Yasway, we have a lease proposal for the 10 modular units, and as you could imagine, it's fairly pricey. With some of the unknowns with the high school project, we didn't even get the bid yet. We were concerned that we signed a lease agreement on 10 modular units, and if something happens, through the bid process. So we went back to Mobile Lease and we asked them if there was any way that we could delay our decision on the lease. Now, the reason it was getting close is because they need to reserve those units
Sure.
You need to do certain things to place them. So what they said they would do is they would say, hey, look, if you would agree that if, you pull the rug out from under us, a couple months into this, we're going to have all this time and labor and energy put into it. We want to have some protection on that side. So they agreed to just say, here's an estimate of what they believe those services would be. Obviously, if something happened, we'd require them to give us detail as to what they actually did before we paid the invoices. But that's what the whole, it's kind of complicated, but initially, but they actually worked around their procedures to give us a little bit of an escape hatch should we need it.
In the futures market.
A little hedge. Good. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for the approval of the renewal agreement with Unified Talent applicant tracking for a period of 1 year at a cost of $4,150.93. This is a rate increase of $197.66 from the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for the approval of district volunteers for the 2020-2021 school year.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. I need a motion for the second reading and approval of the Manheim Central School District policies 103, 113.1, 113.2, 113.4, 200-AR2, 218.3, and 252 as read on January 22nd, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Okay, we're going to move on to board reports. Lancaster, Lebanon, IU 13. Mrs. Ritter isn't here, so I guess we'll let that go until next time. Lancaster County CTC, Mr. Bushy.
We had a meeting about a month ago. I would say it was mostly like housekeeping stuff, scheduling, employee requests, stuff like that. We did have a December Student of the Month, Jeremiah Zimmerman, at the Brownstown location for cabinetry and wood technology. So good job. And we have another meeting on Thursday. I sent out the itinerary if anyone was interested or has any questions, they could let me know. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bushy. PSBA, Mr. Claire.
Yes. Dr. Aiken and I had a Zoom meeting with our new PSBA rep, Dr. Alleman. Great meeting, and what we're going to be doing in the near future is several things that we're going to need to get approved. The main thing is that we will try to have another workshop, which would be very important that everybody be here, because there are a lot of things that are coming up in the pipeline, and the main thing is, does every school board member know what a school member does? This is not me. This is what PSBA is saying. And so they're looking at all the policies, and we just think it'd be a lot easier to have a workshop meeting down the road when we get everybody together. That's all I have for PSBA.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Claire. How about Lancaster County Academy?
Well, Lancaster County Academy is moving ahead. Manheim Central still has 10 slots that we have students at. Dr. McFadden is doing an unbelievable job. We just received another school who joined the academy, and it's Peckway Valley. It's just a lot of tremendous things that are happening, and I'll get into it later, but once we got everything settled, I think everybody's going to be well aware of Lancaster County Academy. And we actually even made money last year on that small $395,000 budget. That ends my report on the academy.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Claire. You have informational items. You know what, we saw the figures for enrollment. We have, as of now, there will be a special board workshop meeting on March 8th, 2021 at the Manheim Central District Office at 6:30 p.m. Due to state-issued large gathering limitations, the board meeting will be live streamed for visitors on the Manheim Central School District website. Let's see, our next board meeting, our regular scheduled board meeting will be held on March 22nd, 2021. Same thing, it will be at the district office at 7 p.m. And due to state-issued large gatherings, it will be live streamed for visitors and Manheim Central School District website. Okay, does anybody have anything for the good of the order?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that, we've talked a lot about dealing with the pandemic, and there are a lot of good trends. Today is the day that marks 500,000 Americans who have died from it. My uncle was one. I'm sure there are many people in the Manheim community who have lost family members. Just want to call that out and remember it, and look to do everything we can in this as soon as we can.
Any other comments? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and thank you to all the visitors.